a hopefully quick Bible study juice. I have eight points to make. So hopefully we'll all take something interesting from this. I know I definitely did and can definitely use some of these things to apply to my life now and going forward. All right, so I'm coming to talk to you today about so focused on image, you become the embarrassment. This came from a segment from a video that I did prior, out of Numbers 22 and 22 through Numbers 22 through 34. Tongue twister. But first point I have, right, is the donkey could see the angel, but Balaam couldn't. So when we look at this story, we see where um, Balaam was going to take a trip to Moab, and he rode his donkey to go there. However, God did not want him to go. And so God used the donkey to keep stalling Balaam proceeding to go on this trip. And because of that, you see throughout the scripture that Balaam continued to get upset every time the donkey would stop and halt the trip. So when we look at verses 23, 25, and 27, which were the three different times that, and this is coming from my CEV. I read my CEV for this. So if you're reading KJV or another scripture, then your scripture might be off as far as the numbers or the verses or whatever, but just still track with the story, okay? And so we see that the donkey could see the angel, but Balaam couldn't. And he saw the angel 3 times, the donkey, and Balaam could not. So I noted what was blocking Balaam's sight from seeing the angel. Okay, keep that question in mind. What was blocking Balaam's sight from seeing the angel? So point 2 was every time the donkey got off course, the owner, Balaam, beat it. Every time the donkey got off course, the owner beat it. So one thing that I took away that while I was studying this, or that I questioned, was why do delays or reroutes cause us so much anger? Why do delays or reroutes cause us so much anger? I know for myself, because I like to use myself as an example because, I mean, it's my page, number one. But then 2, I'm always by myself. So it's easier to give you examples from my life. Anyway, why do delays or reroutes cause us so much anger? So I know for me, road rage is sometimes a thing. Like, I get irritated when people get in front of me and they slow down, partially because I'm being stalked, so people like to try to be funny, but it's just that I don't know, understand, like, just drive, right? But sometimes that could be God delaying a situation, right? Maybe God doesn't want me to get to a place so fast, or maybe he's delaying me from getting into an accident or something like that, right? You never really know. And so let this plane pass. It's very interesting because I'm in an extremely quiet place, right? I didn't expect, my car crew to pop up, but these planes have been everywhere I go. Anyway, so could it be that we're so locked in on our wheel that we're blinded to see what God has put right in front of us? So that was a question that I also asked from this Bible study juice. Could it have been that Balaam was so focused on getting to Moab that he was blinded to see what God had put right in front of him, right? Which was that angel. He couldn't see the angel, but the donkey could. And so he was so locked in on his goal, on his will, that he couldn't see the will of God, which was that this angel was in front of him, right? He didn't see it. So point 3, I noted that the animals will speak when God sees that they've endured enough. Even the animals will speak when God sees that they have endured enough. When you look at verse 28, right, we see where God finally tells the donkey to speak, right? Balaam had beat him for the 3rd time, right? He lost his anger, he lost his temper, and he beat the donkey for the 3rd time. And so God instructed the donkey to speak. So when he spoke, right, He said, "What have I done to you that made you beat me 3 times? What have I done to you to make you beat me 3 times?" So you only get to beat a person down, but so much, and then God's going to intervene, right? God stepped in and told that donkey to speak up, because at first he was just taking the beatings and not saying nothing, right? He was just taking them quietly and going on about his business. But God was like, "Nah, say something." So he said something. So the fourth little bullet or thing that I came to, right? Sometimes your answer is wrapped in the protection you couldn't see. Sometimes your answer is wrapped in the protection you couldn't see. So the donkey kept going off course because it saw what its owner couldn't. The whole time he was trying to keep him from harm's way. Something to think about, right? Number 5 is looking stupid, being so focused on our image. When we get to scripture 29, or verse 29, excuse me, this is Balaam speaking, and he's responding to the donkey when the donkey asks, "What have I done to you that made you beat me 3 times?" He says, "You made me look stupid. If I had a sword, I'd kill you here and now." So Balaam beat that donkey because he was worried about his image. He was worried about how he looked to the 2 people that was taking this trip with him. This is what I noted. I put Balaam was so focused on his image, he couldn't see what truly mattered. He allowed his temper or anger, to beat his loyal donkey, all because he felt like he had an image to uphold. Then his image was so important to him, he was willing to kill behind upholding it. Ain't that something? He was willing to kill an animal he should have known well enough to recognize something must be up, all because he couldn't control his feelings behind his image. When I was writing this or going through the notes for this, one of the things that came to me was just recently how they've been talking more and more about all of these husbands or these partners taking out their family or killing their wives or partners and different things like that, right? So how many partners, right, have we heard about taking lives for this very same reason? Their image, whether somebody exposed their infidelity or whether somebody exposed their uh preferences or closeted lifestyle, right? They're all ready to take a life because of their image, right? Upholding this image. And so one question that I asked concerning this was, why does our image cause us to lose sight of God's presence? Why does our image cause us to lose sight of God's presence? Just something to think about. Maybe journal down if you're taking notes. Maybe not. Number 6 is sight after the acknowledgement. When we look at verse 30 through 31, I'm going to read what it says. It says, "And you've ridden me many times." This is the donkey. "Have I ever done anything like this before?" Balaam responds, "No." Just then the Lord let Balaam see the angel standing in the road, holding a sword, and Balaam bowed down. Balaam couldn't see what was going on until he acknowledged that he was in the wrong. What I put was, sometimes God waits to humble you until after you've made a fool of yourself. Sometimes God waits to humble you until after you've made a fool of yourself. Balaam didn't get sight until he was able to admit to the very donkey who was covering him that he was in the wrong. He had to take accountability. Sometimes we cause damage to the very people that try to keep us safe simply because we didn't stop in our anger to have a conversation, to examine our surroundings, to take ourselves out of the forefront and really examine the behaviors of the very people that have been riding with us. Balaam could have spared his donkey pain and hurt had he not been so focused on his image. Sight after acknowledgement. Number 7, because my battery is about to run out, so I'm trying to run through these. Misplaced anger or aggression when we look at verse 32. This is the angel speaking, and it says, "You had no right to treat your donkey that way. I was the one who blocked your way because I don't think you should go to Moab." What I put is, are you mad at your help? Are you mad at your help? The donkey was just trying to help. The angel was who Balaam should have been truly upset with, but he couldn't see the angel. So he took it out on who he could see. How many of us have done that? I know I've done that. I can admit I've done something like that. We get mad at something that's delaying our path or delaying our route, and instead of just taking a moment to be still and really look and think about what's going on, right? Like, I know for me, I've been having some stuff going on with just trying to get different things done, right? And so I've been running around trying to make this money to be able to try and do what I need to do instead of just sitting still and spending time with God. And sometimes all of these delays are coming about that's ultimately, if they're not fixed in the first place, are going to lead to you being forced to be still, that we don't realize that if we just take the time to just be still and actually evaluate what's going on, right? What's in the spirit, what's in our minds, what's going on that we are not able to see, that things are acting out, right? Had we just taken that time, instead of God having to send an angel, right, as a messenger, a warning to do those things or to stop before we get killed, then we wouldn't have to be forced into that situation, right? But it's like that sometimes, right? So he couldn't see the angel, so he took it out on who he could see, which was the donkey who was delaying him, right? He took it out on the donkey, even though the donkey was the one trying to help him. Number 8, I put ready to kill what was trying to save you. Ready to kill what was trying to save you. When we go back to verse 29, it says, "If I had a sword, I'd kill you here and now." That's what Balaam said. Then this is verse 33. The angel is talking, or basically checking Balaam, right? It says, "If your donkey had not seen me and stopped those 3 times, I would have killed you and let the donkey live." So the donkey was trying to spare his life from the very first instance, right? The donkey gave him 2 extra times and gave him a total of 3 times. The donkey was trying to get his attention, trying to save his life, right? But he was so focused on his own image. He was so focused on how he looked to the 2 men that went with him, right? That he was taking it out on the donkey. And the angel was like, it wasn't the donkey's fault. It was me. But he didn't have sight to see the angel because he was so focused on his image. And he was ready to kill the very donkey that was trying to save him. I noted on here, our sword isn't just a physical weapon, it's also our tongues. When we look at Proverbs 12 and 18, it reminds us of that, right? Sometimes we do and say things that harm the very ones trying to keep us safe. Sometimes we get upset without knowing some people or animals see what we can't. We take the switch up as a personal attack instead of as a moment to pause and try to figure out what's going on, ultimately making a donkey out of ourselves. The craziest part about all of this is a simple conversation was the solution to provide the clarity needed. I wrap this up with, stop taking people's life because you're so stuck on maintaining a certain image. Rest in peace to all the women, men, and children who have lost their life behind someone else's image. That's the Bible study juice for today. Love y'all later. I'll catch you next time.